Hello, hello, hello. While we're here, I'm just gonna get real quick. Over to the right is the Plaza Hotel. It's hard to see because of the trees. But it's the most famous hotel in New York. If you ever saw the movie Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, with Macaulay Culkin, this is where he stayed. If you ever saw Crocodile Dundee, episodes of The Gossip Girl, it's been converted into mainly a condominium apartment. They've sold an apartment in there, just to give you the sense of prices, $58 million for one apartment in that building. Tommy Hilfiger owns the penthouse of the Plaza Hotel. And we can go, yeah, anytime you want. I'm going to take the right on 49th Street if it looks clear, and 47th Street if it looks crowded up. Over to the left is the General Motors building, and we can see F.A.O. Schwarz within the General Motors building. And F.A.O. Schwarz is the most famous toy store in the United States. And if you ever saw the movie Big with Tom Hanks, that's the toy store. He was dancing on the big piano. There's a big, huge piano that people dance on and they play the piano. The original piano is actually over in Planet Hollywood. Over to the left is Tiffany and Company, made famous by the movie Breakfast at Tiffany. To our left is Trump Tower, the most famous of all the Donald Trump buildings. This is actually where Michael Jackson had his New York residence. When he had an apartment in New York, he kept it at the Trump Tower. It's part expensive shopping mall, and above that is expensive condominiums. And within the Trump Tower, they have what they call the world's tallest indoor waterfall. And it's a big, huge marble wall with water coming down the side. Over to the right is the world's largest Abercrombie and Fitch, and there's usually a half-naked male model in there. Wait, let's take a look. Yes, half naked. There he is. Whoa, shocking. Right now we are on the most expensive retail real estate in the world. This is the most famous shopping avenue in the world, and it costs more money to have a store on Fifth Avenue than any other place in the world. Over to the left is the world's largest Disney store, and they sell all the licensed merchandise of the Disney chain. Fifth Avenue is also very important because it splits New York in two. Everything on the left side is the east side of New York. Everything on the right side is the west side of New York. Over to the right is the world's largest Gap store. St. Thomas's Church, where Whitney Houston got married to Bobby Brown over there. Over to the left, where the American flag is, a French flag, a British flag, is Cartier. It's my favorite store. At Christmas time on Fifth Avenue, they wrap the whole building in a big red ribbon. The whole building looks like a Christmas gift. And guys, do you want to impress your host family when you see him for the first time tomorrow? Yes, of course. Well, tonight, you go to the store right next to Cartier. It's called Versace. And you get yourself a new Versace outfit. And your host family will be very, very impressed. Hey, Greg, do you know how many people are on the bus?
48.
48, great. By the way, I have not introduced myself. How rude. My name is Jay. Hello. I will be showing you around for the next few hours. So if you have any questions about New York City, I'm going to be your answer guy, okay? So don't be shy. I'm going to have a question for you in a second, but I want to show you a few things over here. Over to the left, and you guys are all going to the Empire State Building. You're on top of the Rock bus, right? Empire State Building bus, yeah. Over across the street to the left is St. Patrick's Cathedral. This is the most famous church in the United States. It's a Catholic cathedral and a head of the New York Archdiocese. Over to the right are a grouping of buildings, 12 original buildings built in the 1930s, and this is known as Rockefeller Center. And it was conceived by a guy named John D. Rockefeller, who was the richest man in the world at the time. Over to the right is the British Empire Building, and on the other side is the French Building. And in between Britain and France is a body of water called the English Channel. And so we call these gardens the Channel Gardens, and we change the Channel Gardens every 8 weeks. So if you come back to New York in 2 months, you walk through the British Empire building and the French building through the Channel Gardens, you'll see a totally different garden over here. Absolutely beautiful. The most famous gardens are obviously the Christmas gardens and the Easter gardens. At the end of the Channel is where we put the ice skating rink in the wintertime. Once again, you saw that in the movie Home Alone 2. And on the other side of the ice skating rink is the most famous Christmas tree in the United States. And it has over 30,000 lights on it. Now the building over at the other end, the Teil building, is the most famous building of Rockefeller Center, and it's called 30 Rock. And that's where some of the buses are finishing the tour. They have tickets for the observation deck on top. It's much better if you ever want to come to New York City and do the observation deck. Always do this one. This one is so much better than the Empire State Buildings, okay? How many of you people are going to be living in New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut? Raise your hand. Wow, quite a few of you. So you're in your playground, guys. You have a day off, you'll be able to jump on a bus or a train and get to New York City probably very, very easily, probably within an hour of where you're living. Now, usually, all the flags that go around the ice skating rink, and by the way, during the summer, this time of year, it becomes an outdoor cafe. But over to the right where the ice skating rink, the outdoor cafe is, usually all the flags are all the flags of the United Nations, but because they have a special installation over here, these are all the flags of the states of the United States. So usually when you come back, you'll probably see the United Nations flags over here. Across the street, you can see what we call the zipper going around the side of the building. You see where it says, gives you the news in red?
Yeah.
That's the site of the Today Show, which is the most popular morning news show in the United States. So probably most of your host families, when they watch television in the morning, get the news of what happened in the world, they're probably watching the Today Show. But the other popular show is called Good Morning America. We're going to see that television studio. And we actually passed the third one, which is not very popular, called The Early Show on CBS. Now, every Friday during the summertime, there's a free concert over here. So tomorrow morning, I don't know who's playing over here, but there are usually thousands and thousands and thousands of people, some of them waiting when Justin Timberlake comes over here to perform for free, or Whitney Houston, or Madonna. Absolutely free. People go crazy and they wait from 3, 4, 5 in the morning to get the best place to see the concert every Friday over at the Today Show. Now, Rockefeller Center was conceived by John D. Rockefeller. He was the richest man in the world, and he created Rockefeller Center in what he called a city within a city. So anybody who works, this is basically an office complex. Anybody who works in this office complex really doesn't have to leave Rockefeller Center. They can come to Dean and DeLuca for a cup of coffee. There are restaurants, there's shopping, there's even entertainment over here. So it's self-contained area of New York. Now the most famous building is the building with the observation deck, 30 Rock. And on the 65th floor is a very famous restaurant called the Rainbow Room. And if you ever saw the movie Sleepless in Seattle with Meg Ryan, at the end of the movie, she's having dinner in the Rainbow Room, and she looks out the window and she sees the Empire State Building, and she remembers her date with Tom Hanks. She runs from her fiance and runs to the Empire State Building to meet Tom Hanks. This building also houses the NBC television studios. So do you know a guy named Conan O'Brien? He took over for